The late Jurassic world was a landscape defined by scale. Vast fern prairies stretched to the horizon, shadowed by forests of conifers and cycads. But the true measure of this world was not in its flora, but in its fauna. It was an age of giants, and to walk among them was to be humbled by living mountains. Here, the very ground trembled with a rhythm set by titans. This is the story of one such giant, and the astonishing secret weapon it hid in plain sight. Now, let's open the fossil record and resurrect the story of this Jurassic titan. The creature's name is Diplodocus, meaning double beam, a reference to the uniquely shaped chevron bones found underneath its tail vertebrae. First unearthed in the rich fossil beds of the Morrison Formation in North America, its silhouette is one of the most iconic in prehistoric history. Stretching up to 90 feet, or nearly 27 meters, from snout to tail, it was a true colossus. Yet, despite its size, Diplodocus was surprisingly gracile compared to its sauropod contemporaries. Its skeleton reveals a structure built not for bulk, but for length. A long, flexible neck allowed it to graze on low-lying vegetation, sweeping vast arcs of ferns and horsetails into its peg-like teeth, which were perfectly adapted for stripping foliage from branches. It was a highly successful herbivore, a keystone species that shaped the very environment it inhabited. When we analyze its ecosystem, we see Diplodocus was a master of its niche. Unlike the towering Brachiosaurus that browsed the treetops, Diplodocus was a horizontal feeder, a living harvester of the Jurassic understory. Herds of these animals would have moved through the landscape like a slow-motion river, their immense collective presence a formidable deterrent to the predators that shared their world, like the formidable Allosaurus and the cunning Ceratosaurus. For decades, paleontologists viewed this size as its primary and perhaps only defense. An adult Diplodocus was simply too large for most predators to tackle, but this assumption overlooked the most extraordinary feature of its anatomy: its tail. The vertebral column of Diplodocus didn't just end. It tapered into an impossibly long, slender filament. Comprising more than 80 caudal vertebrae, twice as many as most other sauropods, the final portion was little more than a thin whip of bone and sinew, stretching on for meters. For early paleontologists, this structure was a profound puzzle. It seemed too fragile for combat, lacking the bony clubs or spikes seen in other herbivores like Ankylosaurus or Stegosaurus. Conventional wisdom suggested it was simply a counterbalance for its long neck, a passive piece of anatomy. Yet, the fossil record held clues to a far more dynamic and shocking purpose. The extreme length, the remarkable number of interlocking vertebrae, and the whip-thin termination, these were not features of a simple counterweight. This was a structure built for something else entirely, something that would challenge our entire conception of how these gentle giants defended their place in a dangerous world. This anatomical puzzle lingered in the halls of paleontology for nearly a century, a silent question attached to the end of an otherwise well-understood animal. The answer would come not from a new fossil discovery, but from the intersection of paleontology, physics, and computer science. The hypothesis, when first proposed, seemed audacious. What if the tail of Diplodocus was not a counterbalance, but a bullwhip? The idea was put to the test by scientists who meticulously created a digital model of the sauropod's tail, reconstructing its musculature, bone density, and range of motion based on the fossil evidence. They sought to understand the transfer of energy through this incredible biological structure. A powerful muscular base near the hips would initiate a wave, a ripple of motion that would travel down the 80 interlocking vertebrae. As the wave moved along the tail, the structure rapidly tapered, getting thinner and lighter. This is a crucial principle of physics. As the mass decreases, the velocity of the wave must increase to conserve momentum. The computer simulations revealed something extraordinary. The energy generated by a simple flick at the base of the tail would be amplified exponentially as it shot towards the tip. The model showed that the final, slender portion of the tail, the popper, could accelerate to phenomenal speeds. When the simulation was run, the results were staggering. The very tip of the tail could break the sound barrier, achieving a velocity of over 1,200 kilometers per hour, or more than 750 miles per hour. The resulting effect would be a miniature sonic boom, a thunderous crack that would have reverberated across the Jurassic plains. The sound, estimated by researchers to be as loud as 200 decibels, would be comparable to the roar of a cannon. The name Diplodocus, double beam, now took on a new, more profound meaning. The unique chevron bones were not just passive supports. We now see them as critical components of a biomechanical engine, a framework designed to handle the immense stresses of generating a supersonic wave. This discovery fundamentally reframes our understanding of sauropod defense. The primary weapon of Diplodocus may not have been physical at all, but auditory. Imagine an Allosaurus, a predator honed by millions of years of evolution, stalking the edge of a herd. Before it can even launch an attack, the air itself shatters with an explosive report. This wasn't merely a sound. It was a concussive force, a shockwave of intimidation. For a predator reliant on stealth and surprise, such a blast would be disorienting and deeply unnerving. It was a warning shot fired without contact, a declaration that the herd was alert and prepared. This form of defense is brilliantly efficient. It minimizes risk to the Diplodocus, which would avoid a physical confrontation where its fragile tail tip could be damaged. Why engage in direct combat when you can win the battle with sound and fury alone? But could it also be a physical weapon? While the supersonic crack was likely its primary function, a direct strike would have been devastating. Though the thin tip might fracture upon impact, and indeed, some fossilized sauropod tails show signs of healed injuries, suggesting active use, the kinetic force delivered would still be immense, capable of lacerating skin and bruising muscle. However, its use likely extended beyond defense. We can speculate that these sonic cracks were a form of communication. Perhaps rival males engaged in acoustic duels, their cracking tails establishing dominance without resorting to physical violence. The sound could have been used to signal danger across vast distances, or to coordinate the movements of a massive, wandering herd. The Jurassic soundscape, once imagined as a place of low rumbles and reptilian hisses, must now be reimagined to include the sharp, explosive report of these organic bullwhips. Diplodocus was no longer a passive, lumbering giant. It was an active, dynamic animal, wielding one of the most sophisticated biological weapons ever to evolve, shaping its world not just with its immense size, but with the very sound it commanded. The revelation of the supersonic tail fundamentally rewrites the biography of Diplodocus. The image of the placid, defenseless giant, a walking buffet for the carnivores of its time, is shattered. In its place, we must envision a far more complex and capable creature, an animal that actively shaped its own survival through sophisticated biomechanics and auditory power. This discovery serves as a powerful testament to the fact that evolution does not discriminate by size. Even the largest animals develop intricate and often surprising adaptations. The whiptail of Diplodocus and its relatives, like Apatosaurus and Brontosaurus, who shared this feature, represents a pinnacle of defensive evolution among sauropods. It was a low-energy, high-impact system that provided protection, communication, and likely a tool for social displays, all without the metabolic cost of growing heavy armor or bony clubs. This insight forces us to reconsider the entire ecological dynamic of the Morrison Formation. The relationship between predator and prey was not a simple equation of size and strength. It was a complex arms race of adaptation and counter-adaptation. The theropods, like Allosaurus, evolved powerful jaws and sharp claws, but the sauropods were not simply waiting to be hunted. They evolved an acoustic shield, a weapon that could deter an attack before it ever began. When we look at the fossil record now, we see it through a new lens. The vast herds of sauropods were not just passive landscape shapers. They were a vibrant, noisy, and formidable presence. Their movements would have been punctuated by these sharp, whip-like cracks, a constant broadcast of their location, vitality, and readiness to defend themselves. The story of the Diplodocus tale is also a story about the process of science itself. It showcases how our understanding of the deep past is constantly evolving, not just with the discovery of new bones, but with the application of new technologies and new ways of thinking. By combining the tangible evidence of fossils with the abstract power of physics and computer modeling, we can resurrect not just the shape of these animals, but their motion, their sounds, and their behaviors. We can hear the echoes of a lost world in a way that previous generations of scientists could only dream of. The double-beam vertebrae, once a minor anatomical curiosity, became the key to unlocking a secret that had lain dormant in stone for 150 million years. Diplodocus, the gentle giant, was also a sonic warrior, a testament to the endless, surprising creativity of the natural world. And so, the silhouette of this magnificent sauropod, etched into our collective imagination, is now filled with a newfound dynamism. We are reminded that the fossil record is not a static collection of endings, but a library of incredible life stories waiting to be read. Each bone is a word, each skeleton a chapter, revealing how life finds a way not just to survive, but to innovate with breathtaking elegance in a world now lost to time.